My name is Frank Anderson, for those who don't know. I've been a member of BDPA since like 1988, 89 time frame. I've always been a quiet member, but always a member. So when I had opportunity to bring back some of the elder statesmen here, it was an opportunity I didn't want to miss because I looked up to these guys back in the days, and I just thought it would be a good opportunity for the younger people to see how this organization started. So we're very fortunate tonight to have at least 4 of our founders here, or 5 with County Mike Woods as well. He's not here, but he's there. Can you hear me, Mike?
I can hear you.
Great. Okay, we have Marvin Walker, first president of BDPA. We have Wallace Neal. Education chairperson, first education chairperson of BDPA. Okay, and we also have here in the house, Anthony Pittman, treasurer. And a pleasant Roy Peoples, public relationships chairperson, correct? All right, well, we only have a certain amount of time, so I'm gonna kind of get right into it right away. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, Ricky Pettit. Okay, can you hear me, Rick?
Ricky, can we hear you?
He's frozen.
Is he asleep?
He just moved.
Wait, Rick, you there?
No.
Rick,
There you go.
Ricky.
Hello, Ricky.
You
He's
want
asleep.
to try to get him back in there? We'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Okay, for all of the founders that's here today, I'd like for each one of y'all to spend a couple of minutes just telling me how you guys thought about the BDPA, how it got started in your mind, or where did you first think about this? You start with the president.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Marvin's spot, so it's gonna give you 2 extra minutes.
I remember.
Okay. A few yesterdays ago, quick and easy. Marvin and I go back from Little League baseball, grammar school. Okay, and in high school, I had a friend that went to the service and met Marvin. These two played tennis together, and then we found out that we all knew one another. So Marvin and I reconnected after some years, and he kept talking about this BDPA. I said, what? And he was excited about it. All right, he's excited about it, and he got me excited. And we got together, long story short, this is the condensed version. We got to my house, and before we got there, we had talked about it. I met Hazel Beeson. She and I were consultants for the same company, and we were talking about forming this chapter. And we started sitting around and said, this is very important. How are we going to do this? We said, okay, Marvin, you'll be president. Hazel, because female, Hazel, be vice president. I took up education. And Roy did his. Anthony Pittman, he always wanted to be treasurer. Handled the money very well. But seriously, that's exactly how we got started. Now, how did we get known? We got known, we were going around asking for help. Hey, could you help us? Corporations, help us. And they all said, hey, it sounds good, but come back later on and see us. What they wanted to see is that we were doing something. So at that time, my wife was teaching school, and we adopted a school, and we all took classes on their career day. And for the first time ever, I can't remember the name of the school. Okay, it'll come.
It'll come to it.
But we had 98 people. What was the name?
It was started with an H. It was down the street from
Henderson, Hendricks, was the Hendricks or Henderson?
It was
something like that over on 47,
Yeah.
wherever it was. Anyway, we had 98 people at a career day. 98 professional people at a career day. These kids had never seen that many black people dressed up, coming into their class, talking about doing something in this new technology and just adopting the school. And that's how we actually got started. How we started growing is when we started asking people for help. Hey, do you know about BDPA? So you're going back to the basics. You're always doing the basics. The basics are always this. Hey, we're doing this. What do you know about it? Do you know anything about it? Have you ever been to a meeting? Man, we could really use your help. We could really use your help. So what you're looking for is people who have ideas about doing something. If you don't have an idea about doing something, come to the organization, find out what we're doing, and maybe you can help somebody do something. But we really need your help. And that's how we start growing. You can never stop doing that. You always got to keep asking, keep working the basics for help, for help, for help. And here's the other thing we got to do. Keep this in mind. The corporations that sponsored us, that were working with us, you got to remember that one day that membership is going to change. That person is going to change. You got to be savvy enough to think about who's going to take their place. You got to make friends with whoever's coming in, treat them, educate them all over again, and invite them. And keep inviting them to the functions. Keep inviting them, and keep growing, and keep growing. And don't ever stop doing the basics. And keep asking for the help. Our kids today are going to have to qualify for jobs that don't even exist.
Right.
And what we were talking about then was the beginning of AI. AI was just a word, and now it's gone, as you know, it's gone beyond that. So we got to keep talking to them about qualifying. Qualifying why? Because when opportunity comes, if you're not qualified, you can't take advantage of the opportunity. So you got to be qualified and keep pushing the education. And that's all I need to say.
Sounds good. Anybody else want to step in? Or?
And you got to remember when we started, we dared the corporation to say no to us.
Yes.
They very rarely did they say no to us, because we said, this is what we can do for you and your employees.
Right.
We made their employees more valuable
Right.
by teaching them for free.
Right.
Okay? So, and then the corporations, what we also did is had the corporation sponsor
Right.
we went right there and said, you got 10 employees, it's $100, give us $1,000.
Dad used to do that so well. He said so. I had a hard time asking for money. No problem with asking for money.
Mr. P?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have to do is we have to know the issues. And one of the things that when you know the issues, then you can address those issues. Sometimes we ask the wrong question, especially in the technology field. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to get I'm a PR person, so we have to get our brand right. There was no such thing as a brand then.
Right.
But what we did know is that we had to be attractive. And one of the things that we wanted to be attractive in is how we talked, our materials that we presented, and how we walked up to people and started telling them, we need your help.
That's right.
But one of the issues that we had as an obstacle that we had to get around is we had to get the companies to know that Chicago was going to be the epicenter of the growth in technology. We always remind them that Chicago is not number 2, but they was number 1.
Right.
And in our meetings, we made sure that African Americans knew that we had something to contribute and that we didn't need to marginalize ourselves. So if Anthony had to know what the dollars are, we also had to know exactly how to ask for money. One of the things that they wanted to do for us is to put us in pigeonhole as programmers.
Right. Right.
That was good then, but we was more than programmers. We wanted to be in upper level management. We wanted to be level management, and more importantly, we didn't want anybody to understand that we could fill other positions in the systems area. Everybody was on the application side, but on the system side, there was positions like system programmers and network, capacity planning, performance, infrastructure. And so we had to teach ourselves those things.
Right.
Why? Because in those days, computer groups, as they was called, wouldn't allow us in. And so we had to create our own network and share our knowledge so that we can compete with them. One of the things that we've learned as people of color is that we can compete. They don't compete unless they make rules to compete. But we compete naturally, so we put that to work for ourselves. Determination was the key for us. Anthony said we would say no. We started with a yes. Like a lot of people start with no. We started with a yes. Why? Because we knew the next step where we was going. It was just now we did a lot of planning to make sure that happened. BDPA was our lifeblood. Why? Because we had to present ourselves in a corporate America, but we also had to present ourselves in our communities, in our neighborhoods, where technology needs to be. And so we kept pounding that and pounding that. Our first meeting, like you say, was interesting because it was at the Palmer House. One of the things we made a vow that we was going to stand shoulder to shoulder. You remember that word, right?
Yeah.
We was going to stand shoulder to shoulder, and no one was going to beat us. We didn't care if he was a programmer. We didn't care if he was a network. We was going to do the research, find out, and we was going to do our best thinking. Why? Because we was very informed. You got to be very informed. You got to know what you're talking about. And so then, when that happened, is we attracted, because we was doing this, we attracted highly qualified people that was African Americans. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so those people had influence. See, we talking about impact. What we want is people that have influence. The best way, if you are in a situation, I'm talking money now, help me out, Anthony. If you're in a situation where you're in a dire straits, where you have no money, you better find some folks that has influence that can ask for money. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so the best way to do it from a PR standpoint is in this room. Everybody knows someone. BDPA shouldn't be in a position where they're broke.
Right.
That's the first thing. Organizations cannot be broke. Why? Because that makes you a beggar. And so what we need to do is we need to get our brand back right. What we need to do is we need to get our research back right. What we need to do is find highly skilled people who are ready to go out and do what's necessary so that we can be determined to bring technology back to our communities, and then we will be in the corporations where we need to be. We don't have to beg for nothing because we're highly skilled. We look like it, we dress like it, we talk like it, and we are together. And before we went public with anything, we would discuss it amongst ourselves. Remember that? Before you go public with anything from any committee, we had to sit down and discuss it amongst ourselves so that when we stepped up, we was all on the same page. And we could cover for each other. About 2 minutes up?
Mike, would you like to add anything to that, Mike? Rick, can you hear us? Rick, can you hear us?
Wave. If you can hear us, wave.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, well, we'll move on to some other.
They're here waving.
They're waving?
Just a
Okay,
delay.
okay. Did you want to contribute anything to that, Mike? No? Can you hear me? You can't really hear me.
It's delayed.
It's delayed a little bit. Okay, we'll keep moving. In a voluntary organization, one of the things I've noticed over the years, sometimes it is really hard to get people motivated, right? But I remember back in the early days in the 90s when we won 3 championships in a row. I remember the kids winning 2 or 3 championships in a row. How did you guys go about motivating people like me who kind of hit out in the back so I could get away from things? So how did you guys go about motivating people to do work where they're not being paid for? Anybody.
I would say that we kind of like recognize. We actually recognize people, and we we gave kudos all the time. Okay. Now I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
I had young kids back then. And I wanted them, I wanted them to be out of my pocket when they were adults. So, I brought my kids into the organization to learn.
Okay.
They're not programmers today, but they learn the skills necessary to keep a job. So, I brought my kids in, and on Saturdays, instead of playing golf, come on, we're going to do this class because we're going to win this championship.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, you got other people in this room here that that have been around
Right.
for a while.
Right.
Anybody else who want to answer the question?
Sure. Yeah, they are. So I'm Deborah Jackson, and I'm actually a human resources professional. And back in 1989, I had joined Household International, which is now HSBC. A year later, I got a promotion, and I was the recruitment manager for the IT group. Well, only thing I knew about IT is I could turn on the computer, but I couldn't do anything with it. But now I'm responsible for hiring all the IT people within the organization. And the Black IT professionals in the organization were, everybody was pretty tight and, welcoming, and we're so glad you're here, and you got to know about the BDPA. So my introduction to BDPA was from my coworkers in IT. So what I remember vividly about joining BDPA, I think we have meetings on a Friday night. Who
Yeah,
goes to
right,
meetings
right,
on a
right,
Friday
right,
night? But
Right.
always
Yeah.
50, 60, 70 people
Yes.
on a Friday night.
Yes.
We had a very charismatic president, Ali Morgan. Everybody, I wouldn't say almost attacked me, but it was Ali, it was Mike Davis, it was Milt, it was all of those people coming at me saying, you got to get your company involved, you got to get your company involved. Within a month or two, they're asking me about being a sponsor. I'm like, whoa, $10,000. I'm supposed to go back to my CIO and ask for $10,000, but they were on it in a very nice way, but it was pressure. So now you merge Ali Morgan with my CIO, Dave Barney, both of them charismatic personalities, like a good stiff drink, like a cigar. And I thought, if I can get these two together, something is going to happen. And I can't remember, maybe we hosted a reception or something for our managers to meet with Ali and, introduce them to the organization. And they wrote that check for $10,000 so fast it made my head spin, and continued to, long after I left I supported IT for 10 years, but for the entire 10 years that I was there, they wrote a check for $10,000, and then for many years after I left. So the people who were in the organization were very passionate. If you can partner them with the right people in a corporation, then it's a very easy sell.
That's great.
That's great. So,
One
come on.
of the things that
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So there's so much,
Oh.
and I'm just kind of like overwhelmed for a second here, so. My name is Karen Flushman, and I own a technology company called Hasbrook Advisory Group. I actually started in BDPA in 1989. I went to a banquet, and nobody could have a banquet, a party like BDPA could have a party. We all come out, everybody's in a black tie, looking good, and, we've got Harry Porterfield, who is our MC.
Right.
Just
I-
passed this week.
Oh.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh man.
Wow. So, just extremely high class. And then Deborah talks about what was going on with the corporate sponsor. When I was on the board, I was on the board as a reporting secretary. We had so many corporate sponsors that they were coming to our door, knocking on our door, wanting to give us money, because, as someone else said, the quality of the members was just so, they were stellar. And one of the really great things about it back then was that you could retool yourself. You could be a network administrator, 1 year, and take BDPA classes and become a DBA. How does that happen? And then one of the really great things for me was that to just watch some of the people over time, just see them growing and developing, going into leadership roles, starting their own companies and things like that. So it was pretty magnificent, and I just kind of look around and see some of the people here and just kind of realize, like, my very first interview. So I was on the membership committee, and we were submitting, for membership of the year, and we were submitting it to corporate, to the headquarters and everything, and I had to interview Wallace. And I just remember everybody was so welcoming and inviting, made you feel, very important, made you feel like, you could do this. And then also the whole aspect of being, a leader within BDPA, and then, getting people to work to the level that they were working. I mean, when we were having banquets, we would be up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just like printing out, but we would have the programs printing out, but putting together the seating charts and things like that, and so it was like a family of very dynamic, high quality people, there wasn't, like, nitpicking or anything like that. We all had the same goal, and the goal at the time was we needed to get BDPA to the high school students that needed us. I gotta tell you this story, and then I'll stop. But we had an education banquet one year, and there was a mother that was at the banquet, and her daughter had went to our program, and the mother was crying, sitting in the chair, sitting at the banquet, crying. And so, of course you have to ask her why. And she said, "You guys don't know what you did for my daughter. She's so confident. She actually got a scholarship to Northwestern as a result of the work that was happening with her with BDPA. She had actually went through the computer competition. As a matter of fact, that year we won with Perry Mitchell, and she got a scholarship to Northwestern. BDPA is amazing. So that's all I have to say.
And that's the pay. That's the pay.
Yeah.
That's how we got paid. Hearing stories like that,
Yeah.
knowing that we helped somebody.
Yeah.
That's the pay, Frank.
That's the pay. Yeah, I got my own story too. I have a lot to thank Deborah Jackson for. I remember you brought me out to household, and I was a little bit reserved about asking for what I wanted, and you said, "Ask for what you want." I said, "Are you sure?" And you ask for what you want. And I did that, and it really helped my career. And then later on, I worked with another president, former President Jack Edwards. I invited him to come out, but I guess he couldn't make it. But he also was responsible for me getting into the corporation that I'm in now, and I've been in for almost 22 years.
Wow.
And that's all through BDPA. So it's a great organization. So, all right, Mike.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything about what we're talking about here, or some of your high points back in the days?
Well, yeah, one is good to see some fellow, past members in there. See Deborah Jackson out there. Caught a glimpse of Wallace walking by and Marvin. But BDPA was a mover and a shaker, and we really did a lot of, beneficial things for the public, the kids, and even the adults. Teaching everybody, new data processing skills, back then was a very big deal. We even had activities that we were very proud of, like the BDPA picnic, which we would be in the Bud Bulletin Day Parade, and we would try and, work our way up toward the front so we can get on the TV to be seen. But I remember those good days, even Deborah Jackson was out there a few times, and Frank, his daughter, was at that time was the BDPA baby.
Yes.
And now she's like, running as an anchor on one of the TV shows, and we're very proud of that. But we had her as a baby out there, and that's how long Frank has been with the group. His daughter is now running a TV network as a news anchor. We've had so many accomplishments, like the awards banquets that we were very proud of, and we give a lot of awards. Deborah Jackson, of course, is one of the ones who would get awards because she would give us money whenever she could, thanks to her company that she worked for. And a lot of good members in the audience, who always participated, and we really had a lot of good accomplishments. And they have like the Atlanta conference coming up. I think it's in August or so. And I know some of you may or may not be able to go, but it's good to go to those national conferences because you see everything that's put together, and then you're always invited to just become a speaker and contribute, and we get points for becoming a speaker. and that's something that we would do. There was a lot of very, very good things that we did, a lot of accomplishments we made, and we helped a lot of kids get scholarships, and we're very proud to be BDPA members.
Beautiful, beautiful. Rick? Rick?
That's about it.
All right, Rick?
Is he still asleep?
We can't hear, no? Okay, well,
Your mic on.
is your- something else is going on there. Okay.
This is an example of why you should always plug in a wire. When actually you do conference calls or video conferencing, plug in your Ethernet because you get a faster connection on your wire connection versus your wireless.
Okay. All right, well, we can move on to some other questions. We talked about corporate sponsorships, right? And I remember in the heydays, we had corporations like IBM, Brock's Candy, where I used to work, Hewitt, Household, Microsoft, Venture, Allstate, Walgreens, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Toyota, I believe. If we don't have as many corporate sponsors as we did before in the past. So what? I mean, I heard someone talk about it earlier, but how do you go about getting someone to give you money? I mean, simple as that. I mean, that's
Sometimes you just have to ask.
Just have to ask.
Right.
There's a hand back here in the back.
I'm David Jones. I'm a first-time attendee. I'm grateful to be on so many hidden figures. So I have my MBA from MIT. I'm in software. I'm a full-stack developer. I'm the founder and chief executive officer of Hydrogen Labs. So what I'm telling you is what I've just noticed just about how you all are presenting yourself to the public. You don't have a story. There's no narrative behind anything you're saying. And there's so many beautiful stories that I've heard. And I'm like sitting here trying to fight back tears because there's just so much black excellence in this room and nobody knows about it. Creating a narrative is the first step to getting people to understand and to open up those pocketbooks. Secondly, I've had a chance to take a look at your social media presence. It's non-existent. Looking at your website, I mean, there's no forms of engagement. There's no engagement loop that happens. There's no ad sponsorships on those pages or on your channels at all. This is how you get people to start paying attention to you. Creating stories and keeping constant content flowing. Everything you all are talking about now needs to be recorded. This is how you get people to start paying attention to you. And this is how you get people who are my generation to know who you all are. And furthermore, I think, and this is only my opinion, but I think that the persona that you all are going after has completely changed. I mean, you all are seasoned veterans, and I tip my hat to you all. But at this point, you're looking at my generation in order to take up that mantle. Right. Someone younger needs to come and take that mantle from you and show the new generation that this is how business needs to be conducted. This is how we can do this through agency and through community. And then that's how we can grow and to rekindle that fire that once was.
Then I would assume that you will be joining
I was gonna
somebody,
ask
working
that
with somebody here.
And I
Yeah,
have
you're
more
in. Okay.
positions open.
Okay, that's it. There you go.
Excellent point. Yes, go ahead.
You know something? Those sponsors that you read, because I've been involved in NASB, National Society of Black Engineers, for the past, since 2003. Those are the same sponsors that give NASB money all the time.
Right.
And I'm like, but the difference is that NASB, their whole narrative, just like you said, if you ask any old schooler from NASB, they're gonna say our selling point is that our NASB is the largest student-led ran organization in the world. We got over 85,000 students, and they run the organization. I don't run nothing; they run, and that just get the attention of everybody. And to show the power of that, my son just got an internship with Collin Aerospace and another one with Federal Signal, and Gattister Turbine doing research, and it's all because he's a part of NASB. And it's like, if we just create those students programs and just take those pictures and be involved in robotics and be in the same room, man, That is a no-brainer. There's our narrative right there.
But I'm not clear on how we got to this point. I haven't been to a meeting in 15, 20 years, so something
That's how we got there.
happened. But, you know, something else happened along the way, because long after I stopped supporting IT, HSBC was still giving money, so I know that continued. And to now be on the verge of bankruptcy with a handful of people at a meeting and so forth. I recall maybe 5-8 years ago going to a meeting at Miller Coors, and it was an election, and less than 25 people came for an election. That used to be a big deal, showing up.
Yeah.
You hadn't come to any meetings, you
So
came.
when I joined, we had over 700 student numbers,
Yeah.
and that was in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape has changed. We've lost lots of our sponsorships. We've lost lots of our membership.
Mhm.
People have matriculated out of
Why?
people have matriculated out of their careers. They've not necessarily had the corporate engagement to support them continually. I know from Miller Coors, for example, 2 of our big sponsors are no longer with Miller Coors. And so then we don't have access to those funds.
But that shouldn't be a reason. Again, when I left, I was it. I was the face of household,
So
HSBC.
when I took an organization two terms ago,
No, I was just gonna say that shouldn't matter that people leave. You leave and you prepare the person behind you
Right.
to step in and keep it going. So I get that the face has changed, but you know, that happens in any corporation.
Okay, BDPA started out as, we wanted to know why we couldn't get into those management positions. Okay? The students came later. I know we talked about students now, but the organization, first and foremost, was to say, hey, we're gonna develop our skills so that they can tell us no. Okay? And then, after we did that, then we worked on the students. But first we worked on ourselves.
I think a lot of,
I have the luck of actually probably being the person who's been in the most BDPA chapters. But the one thing that I have seen that's consistent amongst all the chapters is a few things. Number one, marketing.
Yeah.
We're good at computers, but we are poor at marketing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we're good at doing the technology from 8 to 5, but at 5:01, we seem to forget it when it comes to this organization. It's just like he was saying about the social media. I remember at a time we had some chapters that did not have a website. I said, how can we be a technology organization without chapters having a website? Granted, that has changed. It took us a while to get there. It shouldn't have took us that long to get there, but we got there. But the other thing is that you look at just like what she was saying about when we transition, because we're all either one or two things gonna die. Either we're going to move, we're either going to move to a new position or we're gonna die. So we always have to have succession planning. We're not the only organization that has gone through this, because unfortunately, I have another career and it's called career volunteer. So what we're going through, I have seen in other organizations. Now, I actually did do a succession plan and transition someone into my position when I was chapter president in Columbus. They didn't do it, but the chapter, I was just actually chatting with somebody who's actually here from Columbus, and they were telling me the chapter in Columbus is almost non-existent. So we are, and this used to be the largest chapter in the country. It's not like we can't get back there. But the one thing about it is there are a few things that we need to implement. And one thing is that marketing.
So are there chapters that are thriving?
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, one thing you also have to look at, there are certain key partners that made a lot of chapters thrive. Because you look at Cincinnati overtook Chicago only because of one key person, and that was Wayne Hicks.
Right.
So, and had it not been for that, it's just, but the one thing about it is you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And the other thing you have to look at is our organization, just as other organizations are actually evolving and changing. We have to learn to do that because of the internet. A lot of people are actually not engaging physically, they are engaging virtually. So we actually, when we have meetings, we need to have an appropriate virtual presence so that we can actually have people in two places, physical and virtual, every time we have a meeting. We are
Yes.
computer people.
Yes.
Well, I think that's what I was about.
And we
to
have
jump
to
in.
remember, we are computer people.
The last
At
part
our
of what
8 to
you
5,
said.
we actually do have virtual meetings and physical meetings. Why is it that we can put the technology in place 8 to 5 and can't do it at 501 with this organization?
Right.
The last part of what you said, you know, that touches on something I was thinking that we need to do some evolving, we need to do some changing and some growing. It's one thing to market, I mean, that's great and well and good, but who are you? What are you marketing? What do you have to offer? What are you bringing to the table now? I'm Latanya McSwine, so I recognize some faces from way back in the day. I was recording secretary back. I think when I first joined was when Ricky was first running for president. So first time he ran for president, that's when I became part of BDPA. I was at DePaul. I met some people there. They was like, hey, and this is when we used to have our meetings at DePaul. And so they said, I said, well, you know, it was no big deal. I'm here anyway. Go to the meeting. And I went to the meeting and I saw, you know, at DePaul. So I'm like, all these black people, wow, in technology. And so when you're in a computer science class at DePaul, you like the only face, especially back then. You're the only face. And so to see all of these people that are doing what I'm trying to do, successful at it, that was love. I was like, yes. So we have to be able to bring that kind of energy back, and like the young man was saying, bring our young people into it, and figure out what kind of programs and what can we offer to them in order to get them more excited about being a part of this organization. I mean, technology has changed and has evolved, and we've seen a lot of our people that were here, they kind of chipped off. They went away, and some started their own business, and some of them took some members with them. And the thing is, as people do that, that's fine. That's great. Use this as your stepping stone, but let's not lose our connection. And I think some of us have gotten kind of hardened with, well, you left and you did, and bring them back. Ask them for them $10,000 now that you done started your own thing. You can be a sponsor. You can help us get back to what you know we were. So
one of the things that I know that happens a lot of times is we get disconnected, and we forget that we're not connected. So one of the things that I see in this room is that we got to remember is that we have to have a common agenda goal, and it has to be set, and we have to take personalities out of it. And the one thing that I keep reminding what we kept thinking about is we have passions. Sometimes we have people in the wrong position that should not be in that position. And we were straight with each other. If you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. Yeah. And we didn't waste any time with it. We let you know that. And so a lot of times it's just putting the people in the right position with the right passion so that we can move forward. If a person is in the programming, or education, Wallace didn't have no love for you. He just jumped on you. and if you didn't pay your dues, you know what happened. And so we always wanted people to be financially, we wanted people to be on the same agenda, we wanted people to understand the goals. That's what I think that we kind of lost, right? Yeah, technology is going to change, but we forgot to light other torches. You know, succession plans, sometimes we forget to light other torches and bring people on.